That Rock presents the Ted Lasso After Show. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
Hey, we are back at it once again for season 2, episode 9 of Ted Lasso, Beard After Dark, or Beard After Hours. Sorry.
After Dark sounds like a bad HBO special.
It does, yeah. Beard After Hours. In case you guys don't know, we are Dad and Rock. We are here each and every Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook to discuss Ted Lasso with each premiere episode every Friday on Apple TV Plus.
And if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and we are very interactive. We're going to lean on you guys today. We need comments.
We're going to need a lot because Chris and I were talking a little bit before we got on air here. So the last few weeks, especially, Ted Lasso has been really dense. Like, it's been hard for you to kind of drum up notes because the plots are so thick, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of dramatic plot points and a lot of storytelling. And this episode is just like, it's Beard, and he has a crazy night, and he makes it home to work in time the next morning and brings coffee, and that's about it.
Yeah, and I mean, he hangs out with those three guys. The three guys from the pub. I mean, what kind of, amazing feeling would that be? You're just three guys at the bar, always complaining, about the game. And then you wind up hanging out with the assistant coach of the team you love.
Right. Yeah, they had a terrific night. The three of those guys. We might as well just cover them from front to end. So they ended up meeting him at the bar as Beard was kind of feeling bad about himself and drinking himself into a stupor, going on about the universe and the mysteries of it. And I guess the bar or the pub shuts down 11:30. I guess it's a London thing. They shut down a little earlier than they do here in the States. But Beard wanted to keep going. So they ended up going to what's that one spot? Oh, some other spot, some private club.
Yeah, it was Bones and something, or
Bones and Honey.
Yeah, but something down those lines. Basically a place Sharon couldn't, not Sharon, Sharon, geez. Cher couldn't even get into.
Do you believe in love? Yeah. So and then by the end of the night, I mean, Beard had somehow managed to get them access to the pitch that they love so much, the actual Richmond AFC pitch.
Yeah, look, he said there was about the lyrics of the songs. I don't know if I missed the
I must have missed some of the songs in there.
Yeah, some of it was, wasn't something. You see, I mean, Christina says, I love seeing inside of Beard. Right-handed man. You know what? I always sat back and said, you know what? I want more Beard. We need more Beard in our life. I'm sorry. I may have been completely wrong. I don't know.
I just don't know if this was like an appropriate way of you don't really give us any look into Beard's what he has going on, and then you dedicate a whole episode to it, and it was just kind of so jarring to me because this almost felt like I wasn't even watching an episode of Ted Lasso. I was watching some sort of a short film that was kind of pretty good short film with interesting characters and kind of weird out of left field plot points and developments. But as far as an episode of Ted Lasso, when we only have 3 episodes left of the season, it felt a little jarring.
This was more disconnected than the actual Christmas episode was.
Yeah.
I mean, the Christmas episode we're going to fall back to in the holidays because it was a good Christmas episode.
Right.
This here just felt like he was spiraling out of control after a loss. And we've seen him have these weird turns during losses and when things aren't going right.
Yeah.
And then we knew about this weird relationship he has with this woman, Jane.
Yeah.
And nobody likes Jane. Even May doesn't like Jane. Besides Beard. So it's like, well, where are we going with this?
Well, there was one kind of story point in this episode that did have a bit of growth, I think. I think by the end of this episode, Jane and Beard are probably in a better place than they started. Because I guess he confessed his love. He said the 3 words, the "I love you" words to her,
and she didn't say it back.
Yeah, and she hadn't said it back up to this point until later in the night, where he checks his phone and realizes he's missed about 20 texts from her, and she finally says this diatribe like, "I do love you," and they meet up kind of happenstancely later in the evening.
Yeah. Well, when that guy caught up with him because he left his wallet and his phone at that lady in red, her house, when she was trying to fix his pants, and the guy like all roided up comes up to basically kick his butt. That was great.
Yeah, he was the character.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of insecurities. Yeah, I mean, from the jump. I mean, you see him walk into his house, and he turns. Well, when he finally gets there, so he rides the train. You see him riding the train, then he rides the bus, and he
Yeah,
finally gets to his house, and he turns on the TV, and he sees they're playing the lowlights from that game that just got throttled,
right.
and all of a sudden you see Terry Henry and the other guy talking about how you know Coach Beard is nothing but a lackey, and he won't make his own decisions, and won't really help, and won't really pull his own weight.
Yeah, what kind of a loser has a coffee table chessboard like that? And he actually looks
Yeah,
at it. By that
yeah.
point, you're like, oh, okay, so this is in his head. And
Yeah,
then
this
it,
is
it
all
happens
internal.
again at that club, right? He sits down in front of that wall of televisions and kind of has the same delusion or vision, or I don't know what. It's kind of, that's what was so jarring to me too, is that this particular episode shows us intimate, I guess, story of Beard and his insecurities, correct? But as far as the actual storytelling devices that they use are so different than the rest of the show that it felt like is he on mushrooms right now, or like what am I supposed to be interpreting? Like I understand that
Yeah,
this is what he's hearing from the TV, but normally we don't get inside a character's eyeballs and brain that way. Usually they have to communicate that to us through their words. And this is more of a show don't tell kind of thing, which I appreciate, but it's just so different from the storytelling mechanics of the rest of the series that it just kind of took me out of it here and there.
yeah. Apparently, already here. I mean, this is also in the hair. It's the best episode of the season. So deeply
Deep in,
philosophical.
yeah, philosophical, yeah,
Uh,
which I don't disagree with.
yeah,
It just felt so different to me.
yeah. I had a real hard time enjoying this one. I mean, I was enjoying it to a point because I enjoy the character. I enjoyed the three guys from the pub. Those guys are fun to watch. I mean, there wasn't really much of a point to them. We got
Yeah,
a lot of like little bits and pieces of them, throughout this whole point. So it's nice that they gave them some type of point in the show. They
right.
gave them their storyline, which was nice. But
Yeah, that
outside of
was
that, man,
cool.
yeah,
The cell phone battery dying had me. Yeah, that was fun. That point where he finally read all her texts and he was coming up with a reply and his phone died and he screamed in the middle of
he
the
just
street.
he just starts going kind of almost like a psychotic break.
Yeah, that was funny. After the night that he had, I don't blame him.
I mean,
Um,
everything from his losing his wallet to running into Jamie's dad to the
yeah,
key
that
breaking.
the Jamie's dad thing blew my mind too, because the entire time I'm watching that, I'm like, is this really happening? Did he actually run into Jamie's dad at the end of some lighted corridor there and apparently he did, because he ended up having the bruise the next morning to prove it. He had
Yeah,
a bit of an altercation. He had a bruise on his face. So it was just so trippy, man, where I had to like take everything as fact, even though the storytelling devices they were using kind of made it seem like this was some surreal vision we were watching.
yeah. No sugar said exactly. This is what I thought. Ted Lasso episode on shrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it felt like it was out of when they started it from not this past episode, but the one when they played Man City. At
Yeah.
the end of that, when he's flipping off Ted, I felt that was a little out of character for what we've seen to this point.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of spirals. And I don't know if that conversation between Jane and Beard happened before the game, where
Mm,
he said,
mm,
I love you, and she didn't say it back, and he wasn't in the right mindset from the get go, and then the whole thing happened in the locker room, and then
yeah.
he throws Jamie's dad out, and then he needs to walk home or find his own way home, which come to find out was quite a ways. I mean, he was on that train for a while.
Yeah, he was. R.A. Monogold says, Ted said the middle is dark. It will always work out. It will never be how you think, which that's funny. Yeah, I didn't expect this episode. Watch again and let the lyrics tell the story. It's all there, which that's an interesting point there, R.A. I wasn't, of course I heard the music as I'm listening to the episode, but I think the visuals were so striking to me that like it was hard for me to focus on like the song lyrics and stuff that were playing. So I'll definitely rewatch this episode, and I'll have to keep that in mind. What songs they're choosing to use during these scenes.
Yeah, but this was all over the place. From he finally gets to get when he's sitting at the bar or the pub here, and May gets on him about his tactics, and he sits down, he's reading his phone, and then the three guys come and sit down. And he said, "We can talk about anything but the game."
Right.
And then he just asked him about like his philosophy on life. He's like, it's about time somebody asked me that.
Oh, what did he say about Vegas? He's like, 1 night is good, 2 nights are perfect, 3 nights you've been there too long,
or something. Yeah, something like that.
I thought that was pretty good. He had an answer for everything for those guys, and you could tell they're funny pretty much every time they're on screen.
Yeah.
So they shut down the pub, right? May wants to go home at 11:30, so they have nowhere else to go, and they do end up heading to that. I guess it's a bunch of like college folks or people that are in like Oxford University or some of the more prestigious universities there in London. They go to this bar, Honey and Bone or something.
Yeah, one of those uppity places that you can only get into if you're a part of the upper class type setup.
Yeah. But Beard had a surefire way of getting in there. It looked like he'd done that before, huh? That little ruse that he pulled.
Bones and Honey. That's what it was.
Bones and Honey, yeah.
But you went up to her. He started, basically the bouncer almost. When that's, I wouldn't pick her as a bouncer, but somehow she was the one that vetted him if they came in or not.
Right, yeah.
And then they called. Say your flat's on fire, which is messed up. By the way, let's start with that. You say your house is on fire. That's a mess. That's wrong.
But hey, think how good she'll feel once she gets to her house and realizes it's just fine.
that's just fine.
That was
there's something wrong about that.
Yeah. That was kind of crazy.
We both clicked at the same time.
We did. I saw that. Here's another point. So Coach Beard also kept forgetting his keys, which I did notice. It happened several times in the episode. You had people giving it back to him. What do you think about that? Some metaphor or something? I think. Yeah. I mean, this is the kind of episode that they were really going for some more abstract storytelling. Giving him the keys. I don't know what that could actually mean. Maybe giving him the keys to the team or giving him more of a role. Or
but I wouldn't say to the team because at the end of the episode, his key actually broke in the lock.
Right. Yeah. Or maybe it's foreshadowing something between he and Jane going up a level and maybe sharing keys or moving in together, something along those lines. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something about forgetting those keys, man.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Usually I've got somewhere to go, and I'm kind of at a loss. Really.
I know, guys. If you watch our previous episodes, we like to speculate about how the story can progress when it is loaded with after hours clubs, some private, some pop-ups. Oh, okay, that's cool. That you must be in the know. We certainly are not. We're in the Midwest here. But yeah, normally you and I are able to speculate and discuss even theories like going down the line, episodes down the line, or even what they can do the next season. I feel like this episode, as good as it was as far as just kind of abstract storytelling and kind of a different feel and almost like a short film, there's nothing that you and I can really pull from it as far as like furthering the progress of season 2.
It's a complete standalone episode within a season of 12. At the 9th episode point where we needed more, unless it's getting to insecurities, unless there's going to be something from here on out that happens where we actually see, because we always seen a very confident Beard.
Right.
This episode, we seen cracks in that confidence.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the only thing I can think that it's really going to. And there's a point in the episode where they're at that Bones and Honey, and I hold my like level of being able to BS.
Right.
At a really high regard. Like I'm good at sales. When I got you in front of me, I'm gonna get you. Or if I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm gonna sound so confident in what I'm talking about that you're gonna buy every word I say.
Fake it till you make it. Yeah, you are pretty good at that.
Exactly. And there's this point in this episode when Beard does it, and I am in like, I'm loving every minute of it because there's a mastery of the BS that he shows.
Yeah, pretty strong accent, too.
Yeah, he did, too. Let's go ahead and check it out here.
How are you, sir? When did you leave?
2015. The year we beat Cambridge in the boat race by 6.5 lengths, lest we forget.
I was on that crew. I was the Cox.
Yes, you were, you bastard! Harry Gill is here! Harry Gill in this boat! Marvelous.
Yeah, how about that?
I love that.
It is incredibly impressive that Beard knew just enough backstory of that rowing team and that university that he could find a way in and make it believable for not only for him to stay in that place, but the three tag-alongs from the pub that he brought too.
Oh yeah, and they're watching. They're like when those three guys start kind of quizzing them, they start asking them questions, and you see the three guys in the back like, they're gonna call him out. He's gonna cave, and he's got an answer. And then and then he starts talking about the rowing team, and then they welcome him like they had his class. Like he got him that good that he thought that they took his class. So
one of the three pub goers like try to come in and add on to Beard's story, and he mentioned Professor McGonagall from the Harry Potter books. And I was like, oh no, they just made him, but no, they're just gonna gloss right over it. They didn't listen to him, thankfully. Stress. Ted physically freaks, Beard internalizes until he pops. Yeah, that sounds about accurate.
Yeah, no, I'll buy that. You know what? That's a good indication of this episode. Because one of the times with those high stress was when Ted left the pitch and they won. Now this time they got throttled, and you've seen him kind of like same thing kind of happened again to him. So yeah, no, I can buy that 100%.
And Beard popped last season. Do you remember that conversation that they had having some drinks at the pub, where Ted was going through his thing, and Ted kind of, kept giving him the old, wins and losses don't matter.
Yeah.
Until, Beard pounded his fist on the table. Damn it, they do, because we're dealing with professionals here. This is their livelihood. And he kind of has to shake Ted out of that, that vision that he had, which ultimately, we all love Ted for having that ideology, right? I mean, that's a good place to be at just to internally. But when you're responsible for, the welfare and success and the careers of men underneath you, that kind of ideology could get you in trouble. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, definitely in this sport over, in Europe, because I mean, it's not the same. I mean, I'm wearing my stuff here, and we don't do the same thing. There is no relegation and promotion.
Right.
So if you're in the Premier League and you want to get relegated and you keep on getting relegated, the amount of money for that team is going to go further and further down the tubes.
Yeah.
So the guys that are on the team are going to make less and less. So yeah, there's absolutely a cause and effect over there when it comes to winning or losing. You can't be like play for the Dallas Cowboys and be one of the worst teams in the NFL forever, but still have one of the highest payrolls.
Oh, throwing some shade at America's team. Well, I'm not going to defend them, but probably get somebody in the comments. But yeah, you're right. So that was a kind of a wake-up call for Ted, and that was a moment that we saw Beard kind of pop in frustration towards Ted. I still feel like Ted still kind of harboring some sort of bad feelings towards Ted even now. Like, I'm sure that he appreciates that Ted came clean about having his panic attack. But you can see that Ted is still kind of frustrated or you can see that Beard is still kind of frustrated with Ted being almost not quite as involved as maybe he should be. We haven't had a ton of instances of that, but I feel like there's something there. There's some sort of heat between those two that I think maybe Ted isn't even aware of yet.
You think there's coming to some point where there'll be a split?
If not a split, then at least a conversation between the two of them. I think we're due. We've had so many sort of revolving storylines that are elsewhere. We've had Beard spending time with Nate, or Beard kind of spending time with Roy, and Ted spending time with either Rebecca or Sharon. I think it's time for them two to kind of come back and readjust as far as the coaching role. Get their coaching in line.
Well, yeah, they've added extra coaches. I mean, at the end of last season, they added Nate, then they added Roy. So, I mean, they may not all be on the same page when it comes to, the direction they want to go. Because originally it was just, Beard and Lasso, Ted.
Yeah. There is literally a blue moon in the sky at several key moments. I did notice it was hard to miss that big photoshopped blue moon in the very beginning there as he's walking away from, was it Wembley Stadium?
Yes.
Yeah, that was in the sky. So good catch there. I don't know. As far as other events in this episode, Oh yeah, there was the whole kind of side piece. Well, not side piece.
Well, hold on.
Side.
Be careful with that one. So
Yeah,
there was a
this
whole
whole side plot where he finally gets kicked out of this Bones and Honey place, right? This establishment, because he had
Yeah.
a little bit of a freak out. And they asked him for his membership card, which of course he didn't have, so they
Never
tossed him
had.
out. And this whole time that he's in there, he's had his eye on this redheaded lady. Because he's Beard, he has a bunch of confidence. He has his eye on a woman. Maybe he can have himself. I don't know. He feels such a way about Jane. I don't know if he could bring himself. Maybe she was just a distraction, this new lady or something. But anyway, he finds her on the street. That's another thing, is that this thing was like so real, like surreal, like so surreal. He would see her at the bar, then she would
Then
be
she was gone. Yeah.
and then, like, they're making eyes the whole time. He gets kicked out, and she just happens to be standing on the corner out there. Just happens to be the only person out there. And they walk down the street. He's got a big rip in his pants. You can see his underwear at the back of his leg.
Oops, I ripped my pants.
Yeah, as they're walking down the street. And the whole thing with her husband or boyfriend, the big, he looked like a linebacker, the guy.
Well, originally we didn't even know she had anybody. We thought she was just basically, just hook up with people and keep their pants. It was a weird like trophy type setup.
Yeah.
And then this dude calls, FaceTimes, and he's like, I'm gonna beat your face in. I'm like, oh dear Lord, should I run?
Yeah, and he runs off. He runs to the roof, and he gets chased down the alleyway. And while he was in that apartment, he does talk about Jane. He says he has a short discussion with this lady about his feelings on Jane, and it just ended up in being just kind of a weird diatribe. Beard's stated love was being challenged. Yeah, that's true. So, like, as far as his feelings towards Jane, and he was kind of expressing them out loud to the stranger, this woman that asked about love. And she did make some sort of a point about, as far as being, his feelings. Well, Beard was saying that he felt he couldn't not be around her. Is that love or is that a problem? And she stated, well, why can't it be both? And I think that's kind of been the crux of this whole thing, because Higgins' point a couple weeks ago was like this kind of a toxic relationship as far as the way you guys feel about each other. And Beard doesn't necessarily disagree at that point. I don't think he would necessarily disagree about that now. He's kind of going through his own internal struggle about that. But let's talk about that. By the end of this episode, do you think Jane and Beard are in a better place, or they're still in the same place they were, since the dawn of time between those two?
They're in the same place.
Yeah.
I really don't think there was any growth or any there was no movement on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, she went ahead and responded back in the message. I mean, that may be the only thread of growth, but we know nothing about her.
Right.
She's popped up twice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we don't know anything about her. We know everything about, we know more now about Beard than we originally did. And we know that he's
got some insecurities, but I mean, everybody does. What did I know about Beard? Beard is intelligent. He's weird. He gets into some crazy stuff outside of the football league, right? He has crazy stories about stuff that he gets into, and that's about it. And did I learn anything new from this episode as far as anything that really expanded that? The episode gave us examples of him having a weird night and being able to pull from intelligence to
he
be
went to pray. He says he's a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah.
that was funny.
That was funny, yeah. And that church that he winds up in ends up being this club that she had found.
He can dance. He's got some moves.
Sure.
Well, I mean, he's got some true white boy moves. Let's be real. I mean, that was the floppy arm he was doing.
He was moving better than I was. Come on, or I could.
Well, if you were on shrooms, I bet you'll dance that well.
It's a good point. Yeah.
Well, he even admitted to being on shrooms during
episodes ago.
During a match. So it's very possible he drank more of that hoppy tea.
Right. Maybe that's why this episode was the way it was, just to give us that impression. And maybe it was just a fun diversion for the directors and the actors to have a little bit of fun as far as their storytelling devices. But I almost wonder if they went too far with it, because I felt it. I don't feel as a viewer that I should feel jarred, that I should feel taken out of it, that I should feel like it's
This
something
episode
poking me.
took us out of the story.
Yeah, like, hey, remember, you're actually watching a TV show right now, and we're gonna tell our story in a different way than we normally do in the other episodes. Which it kind of just reminds me that I'm watching a TV show, which is not. I don't think that's the goal of when you're watching TV.
But I mean, if they make you feel something, it's always the goal. So if they they make us feel like disheartened after we find out that Ted's father, the way he passed, or we see Jamie's interaction, or if whatever interaction, if it goes all the way back to season 1, where we're dealing with Rebecca's ex-husband, and telling her that they're going to have a child, him and his new wife. There's always some type of feeling. Yeah, this wasn't the best feeling that we got. It was kind of more like a, what are we doing, and why are we watching Beard be lost?
Right.
But it still invoked a feeling out of us, not what we expected to get, but yet still a feeling
of confusion. That was my feeling.
Yeah.
It's also directed by Roy Kent. I didn't catch that, so I guess Brent Goldstein may have directed this episode, huh?
Yeah, apparently so.
Hey, look, if that's true, he did a good job. I think the episode was well directed. I think, like I said, this was almost like watching a short film, something that you would catch nominated for an Oscar or something, as far as a short film category, or something that you would see at some indie theater at some point. But as far as being episode 9 of a 12 episode season, where we should be ramping up to the finale of this season, it was just hard. It was kind of hard for me. It kind of took me out of the rhythm that I've been experiencing with this show.
This was the first time they tried to play 2 episodes as one. Like, this was one episode that they split in half.
Yeah,
because it picked up right afterward. After everything else happened. You see Melissa here.
I love this episode. The universe obviously has his back. That's true. He lost his keys 3 damn times, and somebody gave them back to him. Have you all touched on the ending? Yeah, we're making our way there. I'm in the minority here, because I think a lot of our viewers here actually love this episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome they did. I think me and you both more felt a confusion. Like, if we go back, I've got a bad, just because of the how I wear and when I work, I got to watch these episodes earlier in the morning.
Yeah,
just to be able to go ahead and get all the pre stuff done for our show. So when I come home in the evening, I can eat dinner, which I normally don't do anyway, and get on here with you guys. So when I'm watching an episode like this at 10 in the morning Eastern Standard, I'm already not quite all there sometimes. So I even asked Sean here, I was like, was it me just because my brain wasn't ready yet for this, or was it the episode? And he had the same exact feeling as I did. So we're maybe just missed the mark with us, and we need to rewatch it. Which, I mean, it's very possible.
And here's the role that you and I have too, because every time I watch an episode of Ted Lasso, I'm always constantly thinking like, okay, well, what are the plot points? What are the storylines? What are the character pieces that I want to discuss in this after show that you and I do? If we were just watching a show to watch it and enjoy it, then I probably would have felt differently about this episode and liked it a bit more. But by the end of the episode, I was in such a loss about how to talk about this thing, because it was so different and such kind of a weird experience where, honestly, nothing really happened. Like I said in the beginning of the episode, synopsis of this episode, Coach Beard has a weird, wild night, and he makes it back to the office on time in the morning somehow.
Weird, just like Coach Beard.
Weird, just like Beard. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was a weird episode.
No, that's fitting. I mean, but there was one payoff. I mean, we had the 3 guys from the pub with him all night until he got kicked out of the club. And apparently they made out big. They kept on playing, and I guess they were hustling some pool or whatever they were doing.
Ever, man. Ended up in a limo, dude.
Yeah, they went and picked it. They found Beard when Beard was walking after his keys were locked in. No, was it after he broke his key?
I think it was, because he was walking down the street not knowing where to go, and they ended up picking him up.
And then he gave him an address and said, "Tell him Coach Beard sent you."
Right, yeah.
And as a football fan myself, I would be flabbergasted
Yeah.
with this scene here. I'm just wrong scene.
Not that one.
Oh my God, it's beautiful.
Is that heaven?
No, that's Nelson Road.
I couldn't imagine. There's nothing I think us Americans can really have that feeling. You know what I mean? Like, we have plenty of sports. We have our baseball, football, hockey. I don't know if there's any sport so ingrained in the culture, like across the board, that you've grown up with, and it's like generation after generation after generation after generation. There's always a split somewhere.
Right.
That you would have that feeling, like you find out where you are, and it's immediate like euphoria.
Yeah. It can divide families depending on like which team you root for over there. It is nuts. He's so selfless. Look at what he did for his friends at the end, Love. Yeah, that was a nice thing for him to do. He knew those guys at the pub, how much they love that team and how much that loss, was a kick to the gut for those guys too. So to be able to do that for them was a real neat thing. They'll never forget that night the rest of their lives, dude.
It's funny that they didn't know where the club stadium is. I don't know.
I know. How funny was that?
Well, they brought him in such a back way, and they went through the tunnels and everything.
This was another thing, like light at the end of the tunnels. Where am I? Kind of a mystery. This old man guiding the way. Like it was that weird fairy tale like storytelling that they were going for in this episode. You must be reading something too. You reading something?
Yeah. We both went blank for a second.
Episode. They're designed that way to make it easier to kiss my ass about his pants. That was funny. The little beard lines throughout the episodes. They were good, and his acting and his portrayal as Coach Beard made it enjoyable too. As far as I was never bored. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I wasn't bored. I was confused. I think
I was scratching my head a few times, but I wasn't bored. Yeah.
Well, I mean, let me see.
Oh yeah, we already went through that point there.
So I mean, overall, I mean, if you had to, if all the episodes so far in this season, it's kind of put a bow on this. How do you feel about the episode?
I thought it was a cool experimental episode. I appreciate the storyline of it, the acting, the direction. I appreciate what they were going for with it. I just don't know if it hit me at the right time, considering we have so little of the season left. And honestly, this is the kind of episode that you might get in a show that's already run a few seasons. This might be a season 4, season 5 episode that the fans really think is like a golden nugget, because the writers have, typically run out of steam at some point, and then they really kind of explore weird areas. They decided to explore weird areas in, season 2. We're still pretty early in the life of Ted Lasso. They went for it. I appreciate the swing at bat. It's just, it didn't really hit. It didn't really connect for me.
I feel that they could have done with this episode what they did with Nate. It could have been like a half and half, where you had Coach Beard doing his own thing, and you could have still had forward progress on the actual plot.
Yeah,
with Ted, because Ted just told Sharon why he is the way he is.
Right.
And then next time we see Ted, he's all happy-go-lucky, putting on the game on 10 speed with Benny Hill
music. Yeah, that was funny at the end.
So I mean, that's the next thing we see. So we don't see the travel back. We don't see him address the team in any way. We don't see any of that after Beard leaves.
I think you're right. I think this would have been an easier pill for me to swallow if we had Beard's storyline as sort of a running B plot throughout the episode, and that was divided and interspersed between updates in Ted's perspective, what Rebecca's feeling after that loss, just getting some sort of update as far as what's going on, and having Beard. I don't know if Beard just feels better as a B plot. it was kind of strange that Beard's been pushed to the back almost this whole season. All of a sudden, we get one episode that's just all Beard all the time.
Yeah, that was
Like I
almost too
said,
much. We need to shave the beard a little bit.
trim that beard a little bit. Yeah, so I guess that's ultimately what my feeling is, and we'll see. I think it's probably back to more of a normal episode next week, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I can appreciate the swing.
Yeah.
I just think they swung at a knuckleball. No baseball reference. But yeah, they could have given us, I say, 20, 25 minutes of Beard. And then they could have given us a little bit of like Sam and Rebecca, a little bit of Nate. A little bit of like, where is Roy and Jamie? You know, just that whole night. We could have gotten a wrap up on that whole night from everybody if they'd given us little bits and pieces of everybody. And I think it would have felt more of a cohesive episode, and it would have fit the actual show a little better. But I mean, it's more likely one that's going to be almost brushed away and moved on.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm glad they did it. We really needed insight to him. He's not right, which is, yeah, that's accurate.
It's very true. He's not right, but we didn't know he was so wrong.
I feel weird about Beard. It's like, I don't know what I want when it comes from Beard. I almost feel like it's good that he's mysterious. That almost
like a Silent Bob character.
Or yeah, just like, Christopher Lloyd in Taxi or something. Just like, he's just kind of an oddball, weird. He's got these crazy stories about the life that he lives, and I just like dropping those nuggets to actually get into his life and see things from his perspective, and almost this like weird acid mushroom trip that he goes through. Maybe it just gave me too much of a glimpse into what his life is like. I don't know.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for checking us out here, Sugar. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's about it for this show. What do you think?
That's about it. I mean, we have one comment from last week on YouTube. You want to go ahead and read that one out?
Yeah, address the notes here.
Yeah, it's from David at the end.
Last week from David, I have massive issues with my father, and I sure could have used a hug from somebody like Roy. I started crying immediately after that scene. Harrison's song was perfect for that scene. Yeah, you and I already blubbered on and on about last week's episode. And I, we won't divulge here on this Ted Lasso after show about our own daddy issues, but I think there's a lot of guys out there, and women too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Who have,
could have used a hug from a character like Roy, or a person like Roy at a certain point. So yeah. And that's the emotion I'm talking about. I didn't feel any emotion this episode.
No,
I feel like every episode, even the Christmas episode, there was always something that pulled at your heartstrings, that made you feel some type of emotion. I almost want to always kind of bring that tear, bring that type of emotion to it. There was nothing that strong in this episode here. And now I think that was my one drawback for it.
No, and understandably, I mean, I could feel like they weren't aiming for that. It wasn't like they were trying to give us sentiment like a standard episode. They were definitely trying to do something different with this episode. And, it was kind of left me scratching my head as to why.
Let's not keep on beating a dead greyhound. And we should go. we should move this on here. So who are we again? I mean, everyone that's watching, I think, knows. But for everyone that joins us later.
Yeah, we are Dad and Rock. We are here each and every Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to discuss Ted Lasso. We will continue next week with episode 10. Guys, there's only 12 episodes of season 2 of Ted Lasso. So
it looks bleak, guys. No weddings and a funeral or something.
Yeah, that looks bad. I wonder who we're losing here in the Ted Lasso universe. But yeah, we're Dad and Rock. Check out dadandrock.com to find out more about us. We have an audio podcast. We have trailer reactions that we have on our YouTube channel. Go check us out and subscribe.
There we go. And I guess until we see you guys next time, go ahead and thanks for watching and keep it cheesy.
See ya.